It's funny. I was staring at the back of my phone this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just, looking at that little cluster of camera lenses we all have now.
Right. The little robotic eyes.
Exactly. And it really hit me how much we've basically modeled all this tech after our own biology. We built cameras to mimic the human eye. It's what, a lens, an aperture, a sensor.
Light comes in from the outside world, hits that sensor, and that's your image. It gets recorded.
Right. It's a completely passive process. And I think that's how we generally move through life, assuming that's how we experience reality.
That's the standard definition for sure. It's the physiological model we all learn in, like fifth grade biology. The eye is a receiver, input equals image. Simple.
Yeah, we think, I am just a camera walking around recording what is happening to me. But then I started digging into this stack of research we have for today, and I found this one sentence that it completely broke that model for me.
Okay.
It's from an ancient text, the Gospel of Matthew specifically. But it frames the eye not as a camera, but as a lamp.
The eye is the lamp of the body.
Exactly that. And at first, I thought, okay, that's just a nice poetic metaphor. But the more we dug into these sources, and we are talking a really wild mix today, from ancient wisdom to modern sports psychology.
All the way to Peter Drucker's management theory.
Right. The more I realized this isn't just poetry, it's mechanics.
It is. And that, I think, is the core mission of this entire deep dive. We're sort of flipping the script on perception.
How so?
Well, if the eye is a camera, you're basically a victim of whatever's in front of you. You just record the mess, you're passive. But if the eye is a lamp, that changes everything. A lamp projects. A lamp casts light. It means you aren't just recording reality, you're actually the one lighting the set.
Which is a terrifying amount of responsibility, by the way.
It is.
Because if the lighting is bad, I can't just blame the room anymore. I have to check my own bulb.
Agrees. That's the thing. It is a lot of responsibility. But it's also the only way to explain how two people can stand in the exact same room, facing the exact same circumstances, maybe even the same tragedy, and one sees a dungeon while the other sees a workshop.
The difference isn't the room.
It's the lamp.
So today we are really unpacking this idea of vision as the architect of reality. We're going to look at how a professional golfer's total meltdown wasn't actually a failure, but a triumph of this kind of vision.
And we're going to explore how you might be accidentally using your lamp to cast these shadow puppets that are just ruining your confidence.
That's a great phrase for it.
Yeah, and we're going to ask the question, is your vision active or are you just stumbling around in the dark? Because once you realize you're holding the flashlight, you realize you have a choice about where to point it.
Okay, so I want to ground this in something real, like right away. Because eye as a lamb sounds nice and philosophical, but let's see what it looks like when millions of dollars in legacy are on the line.
Let's do it.
Take us back to the 2021 Travelers Championship.
Right. This is, I think, a perfect case study in what the sources call the architecture of attention. So let's set the scene. It's Sunday. Bubba Watson is on the back nine of a huge tournament.
Okay.
He's in the lead. He is playing fantastic golf. He's got that famous pink driver. It's just working for him.
He's cruising. He's basically measuring the winner's jacket at this point.
He is. But then the wheels don't just fall off. The whole car explodes.
Oh, no.
He bogeys 15, then he bogeys 16, then a double bogey on 17. He shoots a 73 and ends up losing the tournament by 6 strokes.
Oof. That is just painful to even think about. And for context, this isn't his first trauma at this specific course, right? I remember the research mentions a history here.
It does. Good memory. Back in 2013, same tournament, on the 16th hole, he hit a tee shot into the water to lose the lead.
So it was like a recurring nightmare.
Exactly. And he later described that moment with this really visceral phrase. He said he threw up on himself.
Which is, well, it's gross, but it's incredibly accurate. I think we've all had those moments, maybe at work or in a high-stakes conversation, where you just freeze, you make a mistake, and you just watch the whole thing unravel.
I feel sick.
You feel sick to your stomach.
Right. Now, here's the pivot. Usually, when an elite athlete collapses like that, I mean, twice at the same venue, the narrative is all about failure. It's about choking.
Oh, for sure. You'd expect the post-game interview to be basically a funeral.
A funeral, yeah. You expect him to be somber, talking about how he needs to fix his swing, maybe apologize to the fans.
Because that's what we do. We shine the spotlight right on the failure. We analyze the crash site in excruciating detail.
Right. But Bubba Watson does something totally bizarre here. He steps up to the mic after blowing a massive lead, and he says this. He says, "I would love to do it again next week. Throw up on myself again. It would be great."
Whoa, hang on. Stop.
And he finishes, I want the opportunity and the chance to win.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate because when I hear that, my skepticism radar is going off. That sounds like total denial.
How so?
It sounds like toxic positivity, like, I just lost a major tournament in the most painful way imaginable, but yay me, everything is awesome. Is he just delusional?
It's a great question, and I think it's the crucial distinction the sources make. There is a massive, massive difference between delusion and vision.
Okay, break that down.
Delusion would be him saying, I didn't lose, or the course was unfair, or I actually played perfectly. Bubba isn't doing that. He literally admits he threw up on himself.
So he owns the pain. He owns the collapse.
He owns it completely. He sees the mess. He isn't ignoring the data.
Okay.
But, and this is the key, he refuses to point his lamp at the shame. He points the lamp at the position.
What position?
He realized something really profound. To lose the lead on the back nine on Sunday, you have to be good enough to have the lead on the back nine on Sunday.
That is a heavy, heavy reframing. He's not illuminating the failure. He's illuminating the privilege of the pressure.
Exactly. Most people, when they fail, they use their lamp to light up the embarrassment. They just replay the bad shot over and over in their heads. They make the failure the absolute center of their reality.
It becomes the whole story.
It becomes the whole story. But Bubba Watson chose to illuminate the opportunity. He's essentially saying, I am willing to risk this feeling again. I am willing to risk the nausea of failure for the chance to be in the arena. That is not denial. That is the will to see.
That reminds me of that Vince Lombardi quote, the one that's plastered on, every locker room wall in America.
Oh, yeah.
Winning isn't everything, but the will to win is everything.
Yeah.
I always just thought that meant try hard.
Yeah.
Just run faster, hit harder.
And most people do. But in this context, it's so much deeper. It's cognitive. The will to win is really the will to keep your eyes
The
open.
will to keep looking.
Do you have the will to keep looking at the path forward, even when your emotions are screaming at you, to look at the fear, to look at the past failure? Bubba Watson had the will to see himself in the lead again, despite the very recent evidence of the last hour.
So it's about not letting the fear of the dark keep you from turning on the light. And speaking of fear, that transitions us perfectly to the next section of our deep dive.
It does.
Because if the lamp determines our reality, then what happens when we consistently pointed at all the wrong things?
This is where we really get into the mechanics of expectation. The sources call this the gravitational field of expectation.
And we had this concept from Tony Dungy, the legendary NFL coach, about thoughts that materialize.
Yeah.
But even before we get to the sports side, there's this heavy, heavy quote from the book of Job.
I know the one you're talking about.
What I always feared has happened to me.
Yeah. It's one of the most haunting lines in all of literature. What I always feared has happened to me.
It sounds like a curse, right? It sounds like some kind of supernatural punishment.
It does. Like fate. But the source material here argues it's actually a description of a mechanism. It's not fate, it's neurology.
Explain that. How does fear actually make things happen?
Okay, think about when you're driving a car. You're on the highway and there's a pothole or maybe a piece of debris in the road. And you stare at it. You fixate on it because you're terrified you're going to hit it.
Right.
What do your hands do on the steering wheel?
They steer right into it every single time. It's called target fixation.
Precisely. Your body follows your eye. The text argues that this applies to our psychology just as much as it does to our steering. If you fixate on catastrophe, if you point your lamp constantly at the worst-case scenario, you are essentially illuminating the pathway toward it.
You're lighting up the road that leads directly to the cliff.
And because that is the only thing lit up in your mind, that is where you steer. It becomes a gravitational field. If you obsess over screwing up a presentation, what happens? You become stiff, you get anxious, you forget your lines.
And you screw up the presentation.
Exactly. You primed yourself to see disaster, so you created the conditions for it to happen.
The text calls this a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is a term we hear a lot. But I want to push back on this a little bit because it can sound a bit like magic.
Sure.
It sounds like The Secret. If I just sit on my couch and visualize a Ferrari, is one going to just appear in my driveway?
Agree, no. And the source materials is actually very, very strict about that. It says explicitly, this isn't magic. It doesn't mean you can manipulate the universe just by thinking happy thoughts. The universe, frankly, doesn't care about your mood board.
Phew. Okay, good to know.
However, the nuance here is that while positive thinking doesn't guarantee a win, negative thinking almost guarantees a setback. It's asymmetrical.
Oh, that's a really interesting distinction. So it's easier to wreck the car than it is to drive it perfectly.
That's a great way to put it. If you paint a bad picture of your future, you are unconsciously working to make that picture true. It's because of how your brain filters information. It's the reticular activating system.
Right, the RAS.
If you believe you are going to fail, your brain literally scans the environment for evidence of failure, and it ignores evidence of success. You cannot see the solution because you've put the spotlight on the problem.
There's a metaphor used in the text about painting. You have the ability to paint a picture of your life. Why paint a bad one?
It's a great question. Why do we default to painting tragedies? The actionable advice here from someone like Tony Dungy is to be intentional. He says to envision a life of significance, possibility, and impact.
And it's not because that vision magically manifests it out of thin air.
No, it's because if you are actively looking for significance, you will notice opportunities for significance that you would have completely missed if you were just looking for failure.
So if the lamp illuminates the path, you better make sure you're pointing it at the destination you actually want to reach.
You have to.
And here's the paradox we get into next. Sometimes pointing the lamp is really, really hard, especially when we have to point it at ourselves.
Yes, this is the courage to look inward. And frankly, this is the hardest work we do as human beings. It's where most of us get stuck.
The source quotes this paradox that it stopped me in my tracks. That which most needs to be found can be found where you least wish to look.
It's the hero's journey in a nutshell, right? The treasure is always in the cave you are afraid to enter.
So what does that look like in terms of our vision, our lamp?
Well, our natural human instinct is to shine the light on our strengths. Look how good I am at this spreadsheet. Or, maybe even more commonly, we shine the light on other people's flaws. Look how messy their life is. Can you believe what he did?
Oh, totally. It's so much easier to use the lamp as a spotlight on someone else than it is to use it as a mirror for myself.
Of course.
If I'm looking at your mess, I don't have to look at mine.
Exactly. We use the light to deflect. But real transformation, the text argues, only happens when we turn the light on our own ignorance. There's a great Will Rogers quote in here. Everybody is ignorant, only on different subjects.
I love that. It really takes the sting out of not knowing something. It normalizes it.
It does, but we have to be willing to see that ignorance. If we keep that part of ourselves in the dark, we can't improve it. We are, as the text says, stumbling in self-created darkness.
We've got a really practical framework here from high-performance psychologist Michael Gervais. He works with the Seattle Seahawks, with the Olympians, top-tier folks, and he breaks this process down into 3 steps.
Yeah, it's a great little loop.
I think it's really useful for anyone listening who wants to actually apply this lamp concept.
It's a simple loop, but it requires that unflinching light at every stage.
Okay.
So step 1 is make a decision.
Which sounds easy.
It sounds easy, but you can't make a good decision if you can't see the options clearly. You need the light to even know where you stand. What's the real situation here?
Right, you can't navigate if you don't know your own starting coordinates. You're just lost.
Exactly. Then comes step 2, and this is the painful word. Build capacity. To build capacity, you have to illuminate your gaps. You have to turn the light on yourself and say, okay, I am not strong enough here yet. I am not patient enough yet. I am not skilled enough yet. You have to light up the weakness.
Which is so uncomfortable. Nobody wants to stare at their own inadequacy. Our egos are built to avoid that feeling.
Very uncomfortable. But if you don't see the gap, you can't close it. It will remain a blind spot. And then step 3, test yourself.
What does it mean?
This means shining the light on your actual performance, not your intention. Did I actually do what I said I would do? How did it go? The light has to be on the results.
So it's about real, honest accountability.
It is. And the struggle is that a lamp that refuses to shine on these difficult truths creates a fragile reality. If you never look at your weak spots, they will eventually break you when pressure is applied. The will to see means having the guts to look at the messy parts of yourself and say, okay, I see this. Now I can work on it.
So we've talked about looking forward at expectations and looking inward at self-reflection. Now I want to move to how this vision affects how we navigate the world around us. Because I feel like the most common way we misuse our lamp today isn't looking forward or inward, it's looking sideways.
Ah, yes, the tyranny of the sidelong glance.
I feel personally attacked by that title. This is all about comparison, isn't it?
It is. And the key phrase here is one we all know. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's a cliche because it's so true, but let's look at it through the lens of the lamp.
Okay.
When you are comparing yourself to someone else, you're scrolling through Instagram, you're looking at your coworker's promotion, you're checking LinkedIn, Where is your light pointed?
It's pointed at them.
Right. It's not on your path. It's on theirs. You are illuminating their highlight reel. And by doing that, you are leaving your own path in complete darkness.
Wow.
You aren't lighting your own way. You are using your light to create what the text calls shadow puppets of inadequacy.
Shadow puppets of inadequacy. That is such a vivid and painful image. We take our own source of light, we shine it on someone else's giant success, and it just casts this enormous, distorted shadow over us.
And it's an illusion. You are the one creating the shadow with your own attention.
Sure.
If you just turn the light back to your own work, your own path, the shadow completely disappears.
That's powerful.
Simon Sinek has a brilliant insight on this, about how we view other people. He says when we pursue what is inside us, our own curiosity, our own growth, our own purpose, other people tend to help us.
Okay.
But when we pursue what is outside us, external validation, status, beating the other guys, other people compete with us.
So if my whole focus is I want to be better than Steve, then Steve is my competitor, Steve's the enemy.
Right.
But if my focus is I want to solve this really hard problem, Steve might be the guy who has the missing piece of the puzzle. He's a potential ally.
Precisely. The sidelong glance turns potential allies into enemies. It creates a zero-sum game where there doesn't need to be one. There's a great quote from Diane Grant in the stack. "It is better to walk alone than with a crowd going in the wrong direction."
That's the FOMO killer right there. Fear of missing out just dies with that quote.
It really is, because if you are just following the crowd, constantly looking sideways to see what everyone else is doing so you can fit in, you aren't navigating, you're just drifting.
So how do we stop? I mean, honestly, looking sideways is almost a reflex in the digital age. The apps are literally designed to make us look sideways.
The antidote is what the sources call the discipline of now. It's about temporal focus. Don't look backward, that's stumbling. Don't look sideways, that's wandering. Look at this step right here.
Michael Gervais has a line about this. Learn how to be here now.
And it sounds so simple, like something you'd see on a mindfulness sticker, but it's a core high-performance strategy. Catherine Pulsifer says to see each day as a new beginning, not just more time to put in.
So if you're focused on the here and now,
You are illuminating the immediate action you can actually take. You stop worrying about all the things you can't do, and you just look at what you can do.
Henry Fraser's quote wraps that up so perfectly. Life is much simpler when you look at what you can do rather than what you can't do. It simplifies your field of vision. It just clears out all the noise.
It creates traction. You can only act in the present. If your light is stuck in the past or in the future or on your neighbor's lawn, you are paralyzed in the present moment.
Okay, so we've got the self and we've got the comparison trap. Now I want to move to how this vision affects our relationships with other people. Because the source material argues that light can actually be a weapon, but not in the way we usually think of weapons.
This is where we bring in Martin Luther King Jr. Now, usually when we talk about MLK, we talk about the dream, we talk about the vision of the future, but here we're looking at his philosophy of nonviolence as a tool for conflict resolution.
Okay.
He spoke of nonviolence as a sword, but listen to this description. It is a sword that cuts without wounding and heals.
A sword that heals. That sounds like a complete paradox.
It does, right. But think about it through the lens of the lamp. If you are in a conflict with someone, a spouse, a boss, a political opponent, you have a choice of how to view them.
Right.
You can view them as a monster, an obstacle, an enemy. If you shine that harsh, judgmental spotlight on them, highlighting every single flaw and every mistake they've ever made, what happens?
They defensive immediately. They fight back. They basically become the monster I'm treating them like.
Exactly. You create the enemy you fear by how you see them. But if you have a good eye, as the ancient text puts it,
If I have a good eye.
if you have a good eye, you illuminate paths to resolution. You look for the humanity in them. You look for the misunderstanding rather than assuming malice. That is the sword that heals. It cuts through the tension without wounding the person.
So it dissects the problem without destroying the relationship.
Perfectly said. And this connects directly to the mirror effect mentioned in the notes. Give respect, get respect. The light we shine reflects back on us.
It's like a law of emotional physics.
Absolutely. Lao Tzu says the best fighter is never angry, and you have to ask why. Because anger clouds the lamp. When you're angry, your vision physically distorts. You see threats that aren't there. You miss olive branches that are there. The best fighter is the one who sees clearly. They maintain the quality of their light even when things get heated.
There's a rule mentioned here called the Three Kings Rule. Always come bearing gifts.
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume they don't mean frankincense and myrrh.
Agrees. Or a fruitcake? No. The greatest gift you can bring to any interaction, any meeting, any argument is the quality of your vision. The gift is seeing the best in the other person. Just think about how it feels when someone looks at you and sees your potential, not your history. When they see your good intent, not just your mistake. That is a gift, and it changes the interaction completely.
It's disarming. It's really, really hard to fight someone who is relentlessly shining a light on your potential. It just takes the wind out of the sails of the conflict.
It changes the game from me versus you to us versus the problem.
This naturally leads us to the final, and maybe the biggest, application of the lamp. We've gone from the self to our relationship with others, and now we go to the world. Vision as service, legacy.
This is where Peter Drucker comes in. He's known as the father of modern management, a very practical, business-minded guy. But he was also a deep social philosopher.
Yeah.
And he said organizations, and by extension people, do not exist for themselves.
Okay.
He said they are organs of society.
I love that biological metaphor. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like a heart or a liver.
Right. Think about a heart. A heart doesn't pump blood for its own benefit. It pumps blood to serve the body. If a heart decides, you know what? I worked hard for this blood. I'm going to hoard it. I'm just going to keep it for myself. What happens?
The body dies.
Yeah.
And then the heart dies right along with it.
Exactly. Self-preservation at the expense of the whole is actually suicide. Drucker says the true test of performance lies outside oneself. His famous line was, "By their fruits ye shall know them."
So bringing it back to our lamp metaphor, the lamp doesn't exist just to make the lamp itself look shiny.
No.
It exists to light up the room for others.
That is the crucial final shift. We spend so much of our lives polishing our lamps, building our resumes, getting the accolades, curating our social media profiles. But the ultimate purpose of the lamp is illumination.
It's a tool, not an ornament.
It's a tool. The Dalai Lama has this beautiful quote, "The world doesn't need more successful people."
Which is a shocking thing to hear in a culture that is absolutely obsessed with success and status and climbing the ladder.
He continues, "It needs peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers."
That just redefines success completely. Success isn't about how bright your own light shines. It's about what you illuminate for other people.
Simon Sinek echoes this perfectly. He says, "Leadership is not a rank. It is a service to be given." When you walk into a room, do things get clearer for people? Do they feel safer? Do they see a path they didn't see before you showed up?
That is leadership.
That is having a good eye.
Ryan Holiday brings up this idea of paying it forward, specifically regarding mentorship. He's like, you can't pay a mentor back. The debt is too great. You can only pay it forward.
And light is the perfect metaphor for that, because light multiplies when it's shared. If I use my flame to light your candle, my own light doesn't get dimmer. I don't lose anything.
But now there's twice as much light in the room.
Exactly. And that is legacy.
Wow.
That is legacy. The text ends this section with a really profound thought. In order to be remembered, leave nothing behind but love, because resumes fade, trophies gather dust, the quarterly earnings report will be forgotten in a week.
But the things you illuminated for others,
The hope you helped them see when they were in the dark, that stays.
we won't be remembered for our resume, but for what we illuminated for others. That really sticks with me. It shifts the entire question from what did I get to what did I reveal?
It's the ultimate use of the lamp. It's moving from self to service.
So let's bring all of this together. We've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from bubble watching on the golf course to the neurology of fear, all the way to the social philosophy of Peter Drucker.
And the synthesis, I think, is this. The body follows where the eye leads. That is the physiological, psychological, and spiritual reality. It's the through line in all these sources.
If you look at the ditch, you go in the ditch.
If you look at the opportunity, you move toward the opportunity. If you look at your neighbor with envy, you stumble. If you look at them with grace, you heal. It's a direct cause and effect.
And this isn't a one-time thing, right? You don't just fix your vision once and then you're done for life.
No, absolutely not. It is a discipline. We have Dan Gable, the wrestling legend, quoted as saying, "If it's important, do it every day."
Every single day.
You have to wake up every morning and consciously decide where to point that lamp, because the world will try to grab it from you. The news, social media, the algorithm, your own insecurities, they are all trying to grab your flashlight and point it at the scary stuff.
You have to grip it tight.
You have to grip it tight and say, no, today I am illuminating possibility. Today I am illuminating service. Today I am illuminating what I can do, not what I can't.
So for the listener right now, tuning in,
Right.
why does this matter today? right this second.
Because your current reality, whatever stress you were feeling, whatever confusion, whatever joy you have, it's all being shaped by where you were pointing your lamp right now.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed,
Check your vision.
Mhm.
Are you looking at the entire mountain of problems, or are you just illuminating the one step you can take right now? Are you looking at what you lack or what you have?
It's empowering, but it's also a huge responsibility. You can't blame the dark if you're the one holding the light and just refusing to turn it on.
That's the tough truth. But it's also the good news, because it means you can change the room just by changing your focus. You have agency.
I want to leave everyone with a final provocative thought, something that comes directly from the spirit of all these sources. The question isn't whether your circumstances are bright or dark. Bubba Watson's circumstances were dark. He was collapsing. Job's circumstances were as dark as they get. The question isn't about the room.
The question is your eye good?
So ask yourself this. If you turned your lamp on your biggest fear right now, that thing you are avoiding, the conversation you don't want to have, the project you're scared to start, would you see a threat that's going to destroy you? Or would you see an opportunity to build capacity? The thing is the same.
The light makes all the difference. Choose your light carefully.
Thanks for diving in with us. Keep your eyes open. We'll see you next time.